Continuing in the study of Calvin's Institutes of the Christian Religion, now chapter 8, sections 4 through 7, and I will read for us Numbers chapter 12, verses 1 through 3. Calvin references Numbers 12:1. I think the context of the next two verses will be helpful for understanding the argument for the credibility of Scripture he makes in this section. So Numbers 12:1 through 3. Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses because of the Cushite woman whom he had married, for he had married a Cushite woman. And they said, "Has the Lord indeed spoken only through Moses? Has he not also spoken through us?" And the Lord heard it. Now the man Moses was very meek, more than all people who were on the face of the earth. So how easy, essentially, we can make the conjecture, would it have been for Moses, the author of the inspired text of the first 5 books of the Bible, commonly called the Torah, how easy would it have been for Moses to simply leave out those elements that would naturally put him in a bad light, or his family line in a bad light, or the immediate family around him, Miriam and Aaron, raising a fuss and causing disturbance at this point with the nature and vindication of Moses' ministry in its own time. It isn't just the JEPD hypothesis, you can Google it if you want, of more recent history that attempt to discredit Moses. His own family, in some sense, attempt to ruin his credibility, or at least hold their own credibility as a stronger or as strong element of revelation from the Lord alongside his. And yet Moses includes this in the testimony of Scripture. Going back even before Numbers 12, Genesis 49, he records the sort of half blessing, half curse given to Simeon and Levi, who were of greater or foremost responsibility in selling Joseph into slavery and of essentially treating their brother cruelly. At the end of Genesis, a half blessing, half curse is leveled against them, that they are brethren who have been instruments of infamy, and their cruelty will be as part of their habitation. They will bear that curse in some regard based on what they did to Joseph. That's Moses's grandparents, great grandparents, 400 years removed. Essentially, he could have just removed that from the Scriptures, but it's in there. He could have removed this spat with family members attempting to discredit the nature of his revelation, but it's in there. Moses could have, this isn't Calvin's argument, but we could add to it, Moses wasn't allowed to enter the promised land because of his disobedience to the Lord. In anger, he struck the rock twice when Israel in the wilderness needed water. They were thirsty. They were going to perish. And Moses was so upset, he in anger struck the rock twice. And that is given as the reason he didn't enter the promised land. Why didn't Moses just simply say, yeah, and it all went well, and God was happy with me, and I was actually one of the good ones that got to enter the promised land? No, he records the brutal facts of historical narrative, of the redemptive history. He wasn't allowed in. He was descended from Simeon and Levi. His own family members attempted to discredit or at least hold their own source of revelation on par with Moses. Moses isn't the only guy the Lord speaks to. Gossip, slander. God speaks through us also. Another argument that Calvin makes is that the Torah was a public document in its oral tradition and then its inscripturated form. All it would take is one Israelite with a big mouth who was eyewitness, who knew the truth, willing to gossip, complain, and discredit Moses and the first 5 books of the Bible. This was a document of the time in much the same way Acts, the New Testament, records that you're eyewitnesses to these things. There's hundreds of people still alive that you can just go talk to about this who will either affirm or deny or be neutral about our claims. And yet you have none of that historically speaking. In the 7th section, he ends the argument at this point, and then we'll pick it up in 8 in our next video, that Moses predicts that God will work in a particular way through the lion of the tribe of Judah. and then through David. And then this notion that Deuteronomy 32 conveys of this prophetic fulfillment, and then of Gentile inclusion and prophecy is something we'll get into a little bit more. But nonetheless, there should be, even at the time, ample evidence within the text and then within just general history to say, why would Moses throw shade on his own family line, highlight disputes, highlight his own not entering the promised land, and then give prophecy and prediction that spans not just hundreds of years in the future, but looks to the time of Gentile inclusion. That was even a tough pill to swallow for the apostles in Acts. They had to work through that one. Well, I hope you enjoyed and that was a benefit to you. Thanks for listening.